Thanks for coming to our PolyConnect lunch. Today we are honored to have Mr. Koehler, Andrew Koehler here to talk to you about his work with the San Jose Sharks and his sort of path from Poly into finding this career. So I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, so hi guys, thanks for coming. My name is Andrew Koehler, Poly class of 2000, which sounds so long ago, it's kind of crazy. But yeah, my title is counsel for Shark Sports Entertainment, which means I head the legal department for our organization. And Shark Sports Entertainment entails the San Jose Sharks, who play in the National Hockey League, the San Jose Barracuda, which is our AHL affiliate, which is kind of the highest level of minor league hockey, if you want to call it. And then we also operate the SAP Center Arena, which is a city-owned building. So we book over 150 concerts or family shows a year. And then we also have 3 public ice skating rinks that have youth hockey leagues. There's one in Oakland, there's one in Fremont, and there's one in San Jose. Most of those cities probably don't mean anything to you guys, but spread out around the Bay Area, we operate a fair amount of ice. And my job sounds cool, like head of the legal department for San Jose Sharks, but it's really not that different from being counsel at a tech company or any other business. So I don't do any of the player stuff. That's all handled by our general manager. All the player contracts are just standard contracts that are in the collective bargaining agreement, which the Players Association has with the league. So I really don't have any say in any of that. Some of my colleagues at other teams in the Bay Area, in their roles as lawyers, do handle player stuff. I know the lawyer for the 49ers, she's kind of their salary cap expert also. So she's much more involved in the player transactions. Whereas in my role, it's purely on the business side. So what my day-to-day is a ton of reading, a ton of drafting contracts. Really anything that gets signed goes across my desk, or I have one associate counsel who works with me. So anything anyone's going to sign for anything needs to be signed off by our legal department. And then if you want to know how I got to my role, so I graduated here in 2000, and I went to Amherst College in Massachusetts because I wanted to kind of still go to a small school, but wanted to see what the East Coast was like. I had a great time. Realized I didn't want to live on the East Coast anymore. I was an econ major because when I went to college, I thought, oh, econ, that'll be cool. Work in trading or something, make $1 billion, and that'll be that. Realized that wasn't really what I wanted to do. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. Took a couple years off after college, kind of just trying to find a job. And it reached the point where my mom basically threatened me that I could go to med school, law school, or join the Army. Those were like my options. So I applied to law school, went to Emory University in Atlanta for my first year of law school, and absolutely loved it. I thought the classes were challenging, and the learning in law school is intense, but I enjoyed all of it. It's cool to see how the law changes over time and evolves, and it's kind of what I liked about law school. And in law school, I had thought, oh, I know what I want to do. I'm going to work for a big law firm and make $1 billion. It's going to be great. So after my first year of law school, I went to the career development department, and I really wanted to I knew I wanted to end up back in California. And after that first year, I realized there are no law firms from California hiring students out of this law school. So with my advisor, we sat down. She's like, if you really want to be in California, you should think about transferring law schools. So I transferred to UCLA and finished up there. And then after UCLA, I got one of these jobs that I thought I really wanted at a big international law firm doing litigation. And you guys are high schoolers, so you don't really have any experience in working at a big law firm, but it was not the life I wanted. They grind you. I used to have to pull all-nighters in the office every now and then. the paychecks were pretty great, but when the recession hit in 2000, and I got out of law school in 2009, and kind of during the recession, when I went to law school, everyone had great jobs, and then as I was coming out of law school, people were starting to get laid off. And I was at that firm for 4 years, and in 2013, ended up getting laid off myself, and then had another moment where I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I was working contract legal work. I was working for this doctor in Beverly Hills who was suing insurance companies over and over, and it was just not very fun, and I wasn't getting a lot out of that work. And I thought, I really took some time and thought, well, what have I always loved? I've always loved being part of a team and grew up playing sports. I played soccer here at Poly, CAF champions 2000. I ran cross country for Mr. Carragher. And it was always those team atmospheres that really gave me the most out of life. And I thought, I wonder if there's a way I could use my legal background to work in sports in any way possible. And doing some internet research, I fell across this master's program for sport management up in San Francisco. And I thought, well, my sister lives in the Bay Area, and let me think about moving up there. And I kind of researched the school, found some alums, and called them. They were working for professional teams. Some of them were lawyers, and they said, yeah, it's a great way to get your foot in the door if you really want to change career paths. But you really have to think about it because it's a 2-year degree program, and that's 2 years where I'm not working as an attorney essentially. So I moved in with my older sister and her husband, which he probably didn't appreciate there much. But I stayed there for 2 years, finished up the degree, and while I was in that program, I met the general counsel for the Sharks at the time, and she was like, oh great, I'm thinking of hiring an intern. So I started as an intern, helping her out with whatever work I could get my hands on, drafting a lot of contracts for her, and then just kind of luck of the universe, the year I finished my master's program, she left to go work for the Pac-12 offices in San Francisco. And the president of the organization was like, well, you're already here, let's give you a trial run. So I stayed on for about 8 months, just kind of in a trial run period, and then stayed on after that. And then the next year I got promoted to counsel, where I'm now the head of the legal department, and we're expanding. I hired an associate a year and a half ago, so we're busy. And then there's just new challenges every day, which is what I like about the job. And we're in a city-owned building, but we manage everything for the city. But we also take all the risk. So if we're not making money, it's not like we don't have to pay the city our millions of dollars of rent. So I don't know how closely you guys follow the sports world, but the Warriors just moved from Oakland to the Chase Center, which is up in San Francisco. And it's taking some of the shows that used to come to our building, or concerts are going there, because if you're a musician, you probably want to play San Francisco, not San Jose, in the brand new flashy Chase Center. So dealing with that challenge and working with the city on how we could stay relevant in the Bay Area sports and entertainment marketplace has been interesting. And then at the same time, Google in the last few years has been buying up basically all the land around us. And they have these grand plans to build like the city of the future essentially in downtown San Jose. So every week I have a meeting with Google executives, city attorneys, and multiple offices in the city government, and we're planning for 30 years down the line what San Jose is going to look like. So that's pretty interesting. But if are there any questions, or if you want some advice from my career path, I would just say if you're sitting here wondering about where you want to go to college and what you want to study, I think it's important to realize that you don't have to figure any of that out now, right? I've worked in multiple different areas. I thought I wanted to be, some sort of banker or something and work in finance when I was in college, but I didn't. And you have to be willing to take a step back and really evaluate what makes you happy. And what makes me happy is working at this organization where it's really cool to be part of a team. And even though I don't work with the players, and players 99.9% of them don't know who I am, or they probably don't even know we have a lawyer. But at the same time, everything I work on, you see, the sponsors in the building, and you see everything come together. And in 2016, we went to the Stanley Cup Finals, and that was probably one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. So then, one year we will finally win, hopefully, but it's not looking like this year. Questions from anyone? Yeah.
What made you choose law? I mean, you present all those options.
Well, I've always enjoyed learning, but I've also always my dad's a doctor, my older sister's a doctor, and sitting around the dinner table with them talking about doctor stuff, I was never engaged in it at all. And then also, the last time I got a flu shot, I fainted, so it's probably not the field for me. And I actually, when I went to law school, I really knew I was going in blank. We didn't really have a civics class here, which you might want to teach, because I didn't know how our government functioned on some level when I went to law school, which is kind of funny. But I really enjoy reading. I still read voraciously, and I think it was a good opportunity just to learn new things, and that's why I went to law school. No more questions? Does anyone want to know anything? Yeah. About
I don't know if this was something you had to deal with, but in terms of, I heard that you went to a law school. In terms of paying for that.
I did go to law school.
education,
Yeah, that's the
how
one.
did that work out?
I have a decent amount of debt from law school and grad school, but I'm lucky enough where my parents do help me out, even though I'm old. They paid off a bunch of it, but in my mind, it was worth that. That's what made it one of the hardest things I had to choose when I left the law firm to kind of go back and get another management degree, was giving up that salary, and it was tough. I had a good network of people where, I lived with my older sister for 2 years. So. Yeah.
Question. What are some of the challenges that you see in your current role, or what are some of the bigger kind of challenges that you're working on or facing recently?
On a day-to-day basis, it's kind of little things that people, because I work across our companies literally with every department, and most people just have no idea that a lot of things in California are illegal. like if you want to run a sweepstakes, like a enter to win sweepstakes, right? There are very specific rules you have to follow to do that. And the marketing department will be like, oh, we have this great idea. We're going to give away a signed shirt and to make all these people do that. I was like, you can't make people give you money to enter a contest. That's just that's completely illegal. So people don't realize that. I advise our HR department a lot on employee issues, and in California, employment law is always changing. It's been in the news recently. There's the new law in California that makes it a lot harder to have independent contractors. So now most people are employees, and the law was basically focused on making Uber and Lyft cover their drivers as employees. But that's changed the way we do a lot of our business too. So we have scouts that scout players that, back in the day, they used to just be independent contractors working on their own, scouting players, giving us reports, but now it's, in California, they're mostly employees, and it's changing that. And then it's not so much of a challenge, but it's kind of a necessary skill to have, is just being able to kind of work with people from all different backgrounds in all different roles. So I have weekly or daily meetings with the presidents of our company, and then I also work one-on-one with marketing interns to work with them on things. So. Yep.
When you had some lulls in your career, how did you stay motivated and looking for the next thing? I don't know, that's weird, but.
Yeah, I mean it was tough. There were some times where, when I got laid off from my law firm, it was tough, and my initial thought was like, oh, I just have to find something to do, right? I need to pay bills. But if you're in a position where you're doing work that you really don't get a lot out of, it'll make you reevaluate what you want to be doing and what you want to get out of it. And to this day, my salary right now is honestly less than it was like 3 years into the law firm I was at. So I have friends that are still at that law firm and they're making, 3 times what I make. But it all depends on what you want to do, right? And they don't get to go to hockey games. They don't, and their environment of work is very different than mine. Mine is much more team focused and everyone's on the same trajectory. Whereas at the law firm, it was, if you're an associate at a law firm, you're competing with the other associates to bill as many hours as you can, essentially. So it's not as team oriented. It's kind of like political, like backstabbing in the office. It's just not an environment I like that much. So some people thrive in that environment. Yeah.
So from what I've heard, you initially went into like international corporate law and then sports and entertainment law, and so now there's a lot of discussion around the American legal system and the problems it has. And so I was wondering if you were drawn to possibly go into that field coming out of law school, or were you already set on?
Yeah, when I was in law school, the classes I enjoyed were like torts law, which are about like litigating civil cases, right? So I thought, I want to be a litigator, but then I realized the work wasn't the same as like the academics behind the field, right? not the same at all. So I wanted to get out of litigation, and then also working in my role now, I oversee a lot of litigation because we're constantly getting sued, and I do think there are faults in the legal system. I personally think you shouldn't just think to sue the Sharks if you slip on a beer spill at a game, which happens all the time. So I still deal with it, but it's a new experience. I don't know if that answered your question. Yeah.
As like a corporate person, what are your thoughts on, you mentioned like employment law, on like the unions and like on their impact, and do you think they're getting into too much of the little minutia involving employment law? Because I know it's gone very, very complicated.
We do have a few unions that we work with that, our ushers are unionized that are in our building, and I don't have a problem with unions. I would say I'm pro union in the right instance, but it's helpful for them to know that they'll have certain wages when they join the union and work for us, and they have their own system of rules essentially, and the structure of union and employment law are kind of diverge a bit, where collectively bargained for contracts that govern unions are kind of outside of normal California employment law. So it's dealing with two different systems if you're dealing with different groups of employees.
What's the city look like in 30 years?
What's the city?
Well, you talked about seeing the future in 30 years.
Hopefully the Sharks are still there. It is really interesting though, because what the Sharks need to look out for is operating a viable entertainment center in the short term and long term. So in the short term, what that means is we need parking spaces because 90% of our fans drive to our games. Google thinks in 10 years no one's going to have cars, right? So we butt heads on this issue a lot, where we're like, well, Google, if you're building offices for 50,000 people in this area, and you're building on lots that we currently operate, we need you to build parking lots under your buildings. And they said, well, people aren't going to drive. We're going to, just summon their cars, and they'll be dropped off. But in 30 years, we'll see that the San Jose area will definitely be a lot different. There's talks of the train station that's across the street from our arena is going to be, like, theoretically going to be a high-speed rail hub. It's also going to have BART, which is the subway system in the Bay Area. It's going to extend down to our arena, and then there's also 2 other train lines that run out of there, and they're going to make this the Grand Central of California is essentially what they're pitching. So we'll see.
Do you have any advice for our students as you're at Poly and heading off to college? Anything like looking back on your time at Poly that?
Looking back at my time. No, I think enjoy it while you're here. Like the thing I love about Poly, and cross country, you guys should all run cross country because it is great. I did love running cross country. I still run and try to do races to this day.
How'd you do in your last race?
Second place for males age 30 to 39. So. The winner did beat me by 10 minutes in a 10K. So. But he ran like a 34-minute 10K or something. I was like, that's crazy. So, he had just turned 30. Yeah, I mean, the thing I love about Poly is that like my best friends in the world are still my Poly friends, and my friends from college think that's kind of weird, but it gives you a space where you grow those relationships and hopefully you keep them for the rest of your life. So, and don't worry about getting caught up in I have to go to the perfect school, I have to know what I want to study. It's like go somewhere where you are comfortable and you enjoy it, and also don't ever stop learning new things. Like there's always new things to learn. You might learn you really like something you've never thought of before. I had never really thought of working in sports until I got laid off and was kind of forced to reevaluate what I want to do.
Any other questions, guys? Well, thank you.